So I had this crazy idea to mount a thumb brake on the handlebar of my motorcycle. Not for the regular reasons, but because in the spring of 24, I lost my leg to a motorcycle crash, and I wanted to modify my motorcycle to allow me to ride my motorcycle once again, just because I can't operate the rear brake lever with my ankle because I don't really have an ankle anymore. So I reached out to this company, Race Torques, in the UK, because they make this cool special valve that allows you to use either the thumb brake or the foot brake if you have the opportunity. And I like the design, so I talked the guy into a pretty nice discount, and along with the help of my friends, I was able to get this really nice unit sent to me from the UK. Originally, our conversation, he recommended that I use a W450 dirt bike master cylinder for the rear, but I decided that I was going to do it my way. And once I told Dale from Race Torques my idea of relocating the master cylinder with a bracket, just unbolting it and putting a plate in there and just moving it out of the way so I could insert his junction valve that would allow me to use the thumb brake and the foot lever. He said, yeah, that should work. So I went ahead. This is a Brembo master cylinder too, so I didn't want to go with the unknown. So I think the problem is this thing is way too far out here. I can't push it any further because of this perch. The clutch mechanism is getting in the way. So I'm going to take this, turn this loose, push this to the inside of that, and we'll see how that works. That's my plan. We'll see how that works out. What I thought was going to be the easiest piece of this puzzle, mounting the thumb brake on the handlebars, turned out to be one of the hardest things I did, simply because the clutch lever bracket was getting in the way. It made it fairly difficult, and I had to relocate it eventually. Once I got the thumb lever bracket mounted, my buddy Luke came over to help me fish the custom brake line that goes from the top of the handlebars down to the bottom master cylinder. A little bit easier.
I was going to see if I can have GoPro in there.
GoPro in where?
Already, definitely do that. God, that's gross. Change your brake fluid. Bad boy. That's coffee.
You can see through it?
It's supposed to be clear.
It says who? Once we ran the hydraulic line down to the master cylinder, it was time to remove the master cylinder, and the first step was to unbolt it and remove the reservoir and empty that, and then pull the master cylinder so we could fit the junction valve into that properly. At this point, the plan was still to reuse the lower master cylinder by inserting the junction valve in place of the reservoir port, and that's how it's supposed to be done. Explain what we're talking about here.
This is your reservoir.
The feed for the reservoir.
For the rear master cylinder.
Right.
Reservoir set up here, and just filled fluid. So we're taking this off, which just has a little O-ring grommet in there, because it's not pressurized. This is not a pressurized system. This is just a reservoir.
Right.
So we're going to be taking this out, putting that new valve in there to have pressure from the thumb brake into this. So we have to have something that keeps this from blowing out. A regular rubber grommet won't do it. So there'll be an O-ring right here on the front side of it. The circle clip is going to go in with it, click in, that way it don't just pull out. You got to take that circle clip out to remove the new valve, which goes in there like that.
This is the point where trouble started bubbling up. There's a pretty good video on this process and how to fit the junction valve in there and properly place it, but we had nothing but trouble from this point on. The junction valve didn't appear to fit down in the port, and after communicating back and forth with Dale in the UK, he finally decided that this was the wrong valve for this particular master cylinder. I mean, looking at the picture, this lip looks profound, but then it's hard for me to believe that the tolerances are that tight.
when I look at this. To me, not just that, I guess just it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I think the thing should just pop right in there, and obviously it doesn't. But what does that do to? Is it due to this clearance here? It sure doesn't seem like it's like it did the other day.
Okay, what I've done, I've put titanium banjo in the two tops, this one and this one. This is the junction valve setup. That is the unit. This piece here, this is loose because this little thread here, nut here, needs to be pushed against there, but you need to adjust it to where it needs to go first. I have also added the original just in case it does fit on there. I don't think it will, but that is the other version. So that is the version that will sit on just like on my T7. So we'll see how we get on with it, but that's that. And to show you what I mean, that's how mine sat. So the two banjo tails are fitted with the banjo bolts. I've used the standards, don't know why. And there you can see the nut being on there against the legless.
And just a few days later, the package arrived all the way from the UK, already fitted with a junction valve in a master cylinder that would fit. So his junction valve didn't fit, and he got tired of wasting his time and mine, so he sent me a WR450 master cylinder. We're going to hope it works. It's got to work better than the one I've got now, which doesn't work at all. So, and my intention was to put this reservoir up here somewhere and mount it to this guy, but I don't know where that's going at this point. So, since there's not a lot of room anywhere else, I'm thinking we're going to have to go under here. Well, everything's in the way, isn't it?
Yeah. Stupid clutch. I mean, we can always add another piece of hose on that too, can we?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably going to be the best way, either that or over the top.
Well, I mean, here, if you can, depending on how you got a mount for this, you could go like right here,
yep,
however your mount is,
yep,
and then just go straight up
under.
But
the problem comes with this.
If you turn all the way, look here. Ooh, yeah, that's good. Hold on, pull that up.
So I'm thinking over.
Are we gonna? How close are we getting to that unit?
Well, that's what all this doctoring with the. So I basically had to move the clutch out to allow this to come in, because this thing, thumb brake, is supposed to go on the outside of your clutch lever, but this thing was in the way, and I was actually thinking about getting rid of that thing, just putting it in a grinder and shaving it down. But then I had to take all this crap off, and I didn't want to do any of that, so I just said, well, I wonder how well it will fit on the inside. So I moved this out as far as I could and put that on the inside. So engineering placement, but that was also because this thing was so far out here that I couldn't turn my bike. So this thing was banging into the tank, and I didn't want that. And so that's why it sits where it sits. And I would say I could move it in further, but I don't think I can. So the only thing that I'm concerned about with mounting at this point is not only but where it winds up when I drop the bike, which I am absolutely gonna do. So yeah, we're gonna need some more brake line, because I want to mount that sucker as far up here as I can.
Got any brake line like that around these parts?
Sure. And of course, this unit just bolted right up. Just put the hoses on, and then throw some custom bolts in there. That was the one thing. The ports on the bracket that held the master cylinder in were different, so I had to get some custom bolts, but that's okay. Put some lock washers on there, bolted it right in, and then we were pretty much good to go. Just had to bleed the system, which turned out to be a real royal pain in the ass. Mounting the reservoir was a little tricky, but those are the small things that I enjoy the most, just overcoming small little problems like, where do I put the reservoir? And it mounted right up after we figured out how to do it pretty quickly. So why does it have to be glass?
It doesn't. It's just that's the ones I had.
Okay.
But glass ones, they don't have seals on it. It's the thickness
You're just pushing, yeah.
and that's all it takes. Is that right there?
Okay, so how are we going to get that much fluid in that syringe? Just take it out every time?
Pour it in there. Because we're going to have to. Hopefully that'll be enough.
Just keep going.
That's 50 milliliters.
Okay.
I think that's enough for the whole system. We're going to find out. Or we can do this thing. I'll put up one of these hose ends on it.
Well, as long as it doesn't take us 3 days to bleed the damn thing, I don't care what we do.
Right.
And of course, Luke comes through again, not only with his expertise, but his specialty tools. A big glass syringe for pushing hydraulic fluid through a brake system. And I'm not sure that there's anything better than this. Maybe we could have sucked it through the other way, but this was just the start of all of our problems. I was kind of suspicious that we were done so quickly pushing fluid through, and I don't think either one of us knew how much trouble was ahead of us just right around the corner. But our problems were just starting with air in the system. Brakes, baby. That's the brakes that I did not have before. I don't care if they're 80% or if they're 10%. Brakes.
Let's see if you can lock the damn back tire up with the thumb brake.
I haven't ridden this and it feels like a fucking run.
Hit my truck.
So at this point, I really didn't know what the big issue was. The thumb brake was stiff. It was hard to push, but I knew that it wasn't very effective. I knew it was slowing the bike, but it was getting nowhere near stopping the bike, which is what I needed to do. I needed to be able to lock the rear brake or the rear tire up, and I wasn't even close to doing that. But I knew we were making progress. I knew the brake was somewhat effective, even with the 30 minutes of bleeding air out of that. I thought we were maybe getting close, and I just had to go the rest of the 70-80% to get it to where it was. Probably I only had about 10% brakes though at this point. I want to be able to stop the bike, and it's not stopping, but it sure is slowing it much better. But man, I can stop the bike, but I got to put a hell of a lot of thumb on it. Why don't you ride it around? Maybe your thumb's better than mine.
I'm trying these brakes. We're gonna see if I can do it without spinning out. So we got about 10%. Maybe we got it up to 20 this time, I don't know. Let's see, full brake. There's something there. It ain't a lot. Foot brake's going to the floor too. The foot brake feels squishy to me. I'm feeling the foot pedal back feed through to the thumb. I don't know what's going on there. Doesn't feel good.
I just think it's extraordinary how much air is in this system after all the air that we've bled out. I mean, it's like we didn't push fluid in there at all, almost. Shocking. But that's what Dale says. Dale says, keep bleeding. And I'm using this suction setup, and I would say it seems to be working pretty good. I mean, otherwise I don't know how the hell I would get it bled. So I've got the wrench. What you can't see is I've got the wrench under here, and now watch the bubbles as they come out. We'll try to do it slowly. Yeah, there's a huge bubble right there. Huge bubbles. They were all fizzy, like they were coming out of a drink, and now they're all big.
So Dale suggested that I alternate brake lever pumping, which I'm doing now, and wow, look at that. That is just insane. How much air is coming out of there. I'm hoping you can see all that. It's just, it makes me wonder if there's fluid there at all, because it looks like it's mostly air. Unbelievable.
In all my years of bleeding brakes, changing brakes, flushing fluid, I have never seen this much air in a system. But then again, I have never put a dry hose on a brake system. And basically this is what we had. We had a dry, completely dry brake system. 2 dry master cylinders and a dry brake line. And that's pretty much what we were dealing with. And apparently there were some gaps in there somewhere that allowed air to just sit there. So that's alternating between the thumb and the foot brake helped a lot, but it was hard to tell that we were making progress. So
I've got the brakes bled as far as I'm gonna go. I have actually, I think there may be a tablespoon left in this entire quart. So yeah, I think I'm done with the brake bleeding. Very small bubbles coming out at the end and intermittently, so I've got to assume that it's mostly bled. So now I've got to deal with this issue that I feel pretty strongly about. This needs to be relocated. I think I need to relocate it somewhere in here. And looking, just kind of glancing at what I've got right now, it looks like maybe I can get away with that by relocating the clamp to the other side of this loom here, and then bending the lever up. So twisting this, relocating this arm on the other side of the loom, and then twisting this lever up. So in other words, twisting this. Why don't I just go ahead and bust it out and see, because I don't really know, because I've never really used a thumb brake successfully, and I used it last couple of times I rode, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. I didn't feel anything like, okay, yeah, all I got to do is mechanically move my thumb over onto the lever, and it's going to stop the bike. I never felt like that, and I'm sure a lot of that is just the fact that I haven't used a thumb brake before, but I think a lot of it is actually has to do with the fact that it's odd position. It's way too far out there, I think. And now if I could just get this thing up into position, maybe. So I feel like this lever needs to go in. This thing needs to slide. Yeah, there we go. And then once I get this located in there, I can turn this lever up in this direction, a little bit closer to flush with the, and what I may wind up doing actually is moving it back to where it's supposed to be. The perch for the clutch lever has got this dangle out here that's just so far out that I don't know. I think I'm gonna just leave this semi-tight now, and then get this other guy tilted in the right direction. Yeah, this is surprisingly complicated, the location of this thing. Surprisingly, I didn't expect it to be this complex. I really didn't. So from what I remember, he says it took him a few years, talking about Dale from Race Torques, took him a few years to develop this, and I can see it. I can see the Chinesium probably just bolts on there, whereas this thing is titanium. I'm guessing the Chinesium option is like maybe cast aluminum, could be plastic for all I know. Much better. It would be nicer if it was right here. And that's, what is that, a 1/2 inch gap? I've seen some that are almost flush with that, but I think I'm okay with that right now. Yeah, that feels much better. Much better. I actually feel like I could learn how to use that. And at some point, I could relocate this if I got really desperate. Push that back on the other side and then maybe extend this out a little bit. But for right now, I think I'm gonna leave it right there. Ride for a little. Is it in a place that I can actually use it? Golly, that feels so much better.
So after bleeding the system to the level that I'm comfortable with, now there's only very occasionally very tiny bubbles that are coming out. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that I have got, even if you want to call it 90% brakes, it's way better than what I had before. I was unable to use my rear brakes. Once I relocated that lever to an appropriate spot for my thumb, it's been a night and day difference, and now I feel very comfortable riding my motorcycle down hills, in corners, and I'll probably try to make a better video of how I use the brake in corners. Here you see me using it just a little bit, just to settle the bike, just to help me lean it in a little bit more. It's just something I've grown very comfortable with over the years, and now I'm just going to have to relearn how to use my brakes with my thumb rather than my ankle, my foot. But I would highly recommend this for anybody that's wanting to do something different, not just for disabled riders, but for people that are doing track days, racing, guys in the woods. I've been in that position many times where I couldn't put my foot down because I'd snap my foot off or get it folded up under the foot peg, in dirt, in ruts, in corners. You're hanging off the side of the bike with your foot in the dirt. I think it's a great advantage, but one thing I will tell you is don't wait to the day before the race to add this to your system. I think that's a big mistake, but well worth it.